Hey everyone, welcome back to another video tutorial, and this video tutorial is part 2 of using our Google Docs to prepare or create a text-based document inclusive of various features. Now in our last tutorial we covered the tabs File, Edit and View. So for this tutorial we will begin with the Insert tab. Now in the Insert tab we have a variety of features that we can include in our document, and once selected these will be automatically placed in our Google Docs, and as a result this would be to enhance our document as well as to add important information that is required. Now the first option that we have is our image, and once we place our cursor over that option we receive a drop down or pop-up box to the right, and this would give us the different locations from which we can collect an image. Now we have the option to upload from our personal computer. We have the search the web, where we search different areas on the web through a Google search. We have the drive, where we can locate an image store in our Google Drive. We have Google Photos, where we can access images that we might have saved in our Google account. We can use a URL, which is a location for an image that is online, as well as we can use a camera, which would indicate that we are taking a live photo. Now the option that I'm using for this example is the by URL. Now once selected it will ask us to paste the URL of the image. Now I use a website unsplash.com, and this is where we can access a variety of free images. Now I will go ahead and place the image, and once the link is there it loads, and then we are able to see the actual image that we paste the link for. Once that appears we can now select the option that says insert, which will now place the image within our Google document. Now as you can see the image has been placed there. If it is that the image is too large for you, what you can go ahead and do is to click on the image, and any of these areas you can drag to the location, whether smaller or larger, based on your liking. For this example I'm just making this a little bit smaller. So what I did was to click one of these boxes and then made the adjustment from there. Now that for the table option, we can decide if we want to include a table, and then it would include how many columns or rows that we want to add. So this is a 2-row 2-column kind of example. So when I insert this, then we receive a table inclusive of column and rows and 2 columns. Now for the table you can either include, well, it's up to you as to what you want to include in your table. And for this example I could go ahead and insert okay, so let me just go ahead and insert a heading maybe. So let's say Google Apps, and then for this we would give maybe the purpose. So for this example the Google Docs that I could use is, sorry, Google App could be the Google Docs, and then the purpose to create text-based documents. Similar to our image, we can also extend the size of our table. So we could go ahead and click on our table, and in this case what we could do is to place the double arrow icon and then drag based on the different section, or we could just place in an area the cursor and then hit enter on our keyboard to expand based on the information there. If it is that you want to adjust these headings to become a title or a heading 1, heading 2, etc., then you could go ahead and do so. And as you can see I applied a heading 3 to this, and it appeared in our table of contents section of the document. So I would just click on keep the Google Apps for now as a heading, And then once I need to return to this area, I could go ahead and click on the bar at the side easily. Now, a next thing that we could include in our document is a drawing. And again, we could create a new drawing, or we could select from or Google Drive a drawing that we already have. So when I clicked on new, what it does is to bring up a pop-up box, and it allows me to whether insert a text box or an image that would represent the drawing that I want. So I still select the image that I had by the URL, and then this would place it as a drawing in this area. So we can also go ahead and make other adjustments to this document. And for this, I'm just adding a little border. So I put increase the size of the border, I could go ahead and select the option there, and then that would indicate that a border the option that says action. This gives us a variety of things that we could do. However, we're just keeping to the basics, so we just added a little border, and then we can go ahead and select save and close, and then this automatically insert this image in the context of a drawing in our document. Now the next thing that, so we are now in the footer section. Let me just go ahead and adjust that. So we are now in the chart area where we can insert a chart in our document. Whether it is that you had some figures that you wanted to place on a chart, then you could insert any type of chart, or you could directly insert it from a Google Sheet that you had. So normally when we're creating chart, the chart would include values, which is numbers, and then that would categorize these based on the different charts that you would want. Horizontal line is just to indicate that this is a header section in our document. That's not really necessary for our day-to-day document, but if it is that you feel that you want a horizontal line, then you could go ahead and include that. We also have the option to include footnote, and as we know, the footnote is in the bottom section of our document. So let's say this includes a footer in our file. Back to the insert tab, special characters would be the different symbols that we can use in our document based on whatever reason that we need them in. Let's say we were creating a file, and then in the file we wanted a symbol to represent, we wanted a symbol to indicate something in math, so we would just use a symbol based on what we want, and then we could include it. So let's say I was given a list that is pointing, so we say Google. Okay, let me go ahead and close that. So we say Google apps, and then I wanted to point to the different listing of Google apps. What I could do is to insert the character, and then I had the arrow pointing to the apps that is there. So we have docs, so that's one example. Another character I could also include. We also have slides, etc. So that is just an example to give. Maybe you're giving a process as to how something happens, then you could insert a symbol and then indicate which symbol that you want to use. Next thing that we have is the equation option, which is mostly when we're doing math, and then this could include a formula template that could be used in order to generate a type of calculation that we are completing. So we would now move to, okay, let me go ahead and remove that because we don't want that in this example. We now move to the header and footer section. Header would indicate that we're placing an item in the very top of our document. So let's say my Google the header. Normally in the header, let's say we're doing a letterhead, we would have the name of the organization, maybe email address, telephone number, etc. So those are some of the things that we could put in the header. that would have been the footer, and the footer is just the opposite of the header. It goes in the last section of the page, so we could even say this is would indicate that this will show up on all of my document pages as well as the header. The document, and then the next thing in that is the page number, so we can apply page number to our document. Predefined page numbers based on the system. We can also have more options. So more option would indicate that how is it that we want to start our page numbering. Do we want the page to start at 1 or 2, 3, etc.? And then we could also decide where is it that we want to put our page number. Is it in the header or the footer? Now for this example, I could go ahead and select the footer, and then I could select the apply, and as you can see, the page number was added to the document. Break would indicate that we want to have a page break, or we could have a section break, which can either go to a next page or it could continue for the previous page. The only one that I'm choosing for this right now is the page break. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is to return to the very first page that we had, and then I'm going to place my cursor where it says Google Documents. Insert, and then I select page break. What this will do is to send this information to the second page in our document, and then our first page would remain free from this type of information. So as you can see, when I select page break, this automatically places the Google Documents section to page 2 of our document. Next thing is the use of a link. So we could include a link within our document. So let's say we wanted to say click here to view a nature image, right? So we could indicate that this entire line, once we click on this, then we could be brought to the image link, or the image link would open. So as you can see, I highlighted that area, then I click on link, and what it does now is to ask us for the link. So once I enter the link in there and apply it, then automatically you realize that it is now clickable. So when I send this document to someone, when they click on this link, they will be able to be brought to the location where the image was saved, because the instruction said to click here to view the image. So once they click on this link, then they would be able to view what image it is this would indicate that we're adding a bookmarker to our document. All right, next thing that we want to look at is the next thing in our list is our table of contents. Now, before I apply my table of contents, what I want to do is to insert a heading title table of content, and this would be the first thing in our document. Place my cursor before my first set of information, I select enter, and then I return to that first line. So that's the first thing that I'm doing. Enter again. Now this time what I want is to bring this set of information to the second page. So I place my cursor at the first line, and then I go ahead to insert tab, break, and it's page break. So this automatically moves that information to the second page. Now I return to my first page and then place my cursor at the location. To the insert tab and locate table of contents. We can have a table of content containing the numbers on each for each of the items that was provided with a title style or a heading style, or we under page number, or we could just select one that indicates the headings only. So I'm going to select the option with the page numbers, and as you can see, this document is giving us the table of content for the Google Docs section. If you realize the major research section was left out, reason being is that the table of content only included those that the style heading was applied to. So these had heading 1 and heading 3, and if I click on my major research, you realize that that was a title. So the table of content update did not include a title in it, because this would indicate that this is our title of our document, and as a result they did not include it in it. If it is that you want a certain information that you consider to be in the document, you can go ahead and highlight that information, and then you can select one of the headings. So you could say probably this is heading 1. So once I select that and then I return to my table of contents, I could go ahead and update by selecting the refresh, and as you can see, the major research is now a part of the table of content list. So remember, on the Google Docs, it will not show the title applied heading in the table of content, but it will show the varying headings that are included in the document. All right, so that would basically sum up the options for our insert tab. The next area is our format tab, and what this does is to make some edits to our different headings and the information that we want to make changes to. So if I scroll to page 2 and I place my mouse or highlight my major research heading, and then I go to the format, when I select on text, I can apply certain things to this. So I can apply bold, italic, underline, the strike through, super, and subscript. We can change the size and we can capitalize. So let's say the first thing that I want to do is to apply the bold, and as you can see, we are now seeing a very darker version of what our document previously looked like. If I return to the format and I apply the italic, then what this does is to place a slant looking effect to our text, and also for those same text information that we are able to see here, there are some of them also on the outer part of the ribbon here. So the underline was there, and when I click on that, it places a line below the selected text. Now, a next option that was in that was the strike through. So what this does is to place a line in the center of the text, and it can, well, not necessary. So let's say we were doing this for a sales strategy. So let me go ahead and do that. And there was a clothing item for, let's say, $2,000, right? However, the item is no longer for $2,000, say $1,000. What we could go ahead and do is to strike out the old price, so whoever is buying the item is now able to realize that the new price in effect of the strike through option. Next thing, we have a superscript subscript. What this does is to allow a text to appear we're going to use the money that is here. So I'll use the cent aspect of this $2,000, and I'm going to apply the superscript, and please pay attention. As you can see, the zeros move to the top of that 2000, and that indicate that this is the cent aspect. If it is that we wanted to use a subscript, then it does the opposite of the superscript, which is to place the zeros to the bottom of the selected text. So as you observe, the superscript brought it to the top, while the subscript brought it to the lower part of the selected text. We could also increase our text size. So let's say I am still increasing the size of my heading there. So I go ahead and I select this size, and it says either increase or decrease. Also, we could select and change that size here in the font size area by either clicking the plus for the increase would indicate that our number goes higher, or we could decrease, which is to lower. We could also click in that box with the number and select from a number, or we could place the exact number that we want to change it to. So let's say we change this heading to 25, and then we made the changes there. And then the final option in the text area would be the capitalization. So is it that we want this heading to show in all lowercase, all uppercase, so for this, I will choose the uppercase, and what this does is to capitalize each of the letter in the heading. So that covers our text formatting. The next section would be to format our paragraph styles, and this we already applied before, where we did the different headings for our different aspect of the document. So we applied the headings and so forth to those. So we used those earlier. What we could look at is the border and shading, and then once I click that, we have the ability to either put a top border, bottom border, a left, right, or a center border. Now we already have an underline at the bottom, so what we could do is select the option that says top border. We could change the width of that border, so we move it from 1 point to 1.5, and then we decide the type of border. Is it a straight line or a small or extra dash? So I'm going to select this small dash just to show the difference. Color, we could also change the color, so I changed that to red, as well as the background color. I select yellow for that. And then the paragraph padding, this indicates how much space will be applied between the text that is there and the line that was included. So I'm going to go ahead and select well, 2 was already selected, so let me go ahead and select 3, and then from there we could go ahead and apply. So as you can see, the background has been changed for the text to yellow, and then the borderline is the dotted red, and as you can see, there's a little bit of space in between the line and the heading section there. So that is basically what the border and shading aspect does. A line and indent would indicate that is it that we want to move our text to the left side of the document, the right side, the center, or so forth. So we already have it in the center. So if I select on left, oh, it's already on left. So if I select center, then what it does is to move the text to the center of the page. And if I select right, then automatically what the name suggests, it is moved to the right. Justified would mean that it is balanced on both left and right. So it is in an equal state per se. Increase indent would be like the tab on our keyboard where it moves the text a little bit to a certain location, whether left or right. So if I click on, okay, let me select the one for clothing, and as you can see, it is currently on the left. These can also be located here. So this is the increase indent, which goes to the right, and the decrease indent, which goes to the left. So currently we're on the left. So if I click on the increase indent, what it does is to move it a little bit to the right, and we keep doing this until it is in the location where we want the information to show up. Now our next thing would have been, so indentation option would be this still varying how many centimeters we want to move it to the left or right, etc. Normally we don't need to make any changes to those. Next thing in the list is our line spacing. Now the line spacing is the amount of space that is there between our text in our document. So if I click on this, as you can see, I think there is currently applied one or maybe no line spacing in between these two. Now the line spacing is also represented by this symbol with the double arrow and the 3 line strokes to the right. Now if I click on that, then we get the option whether it is a single line spacing, a 1.15. so it's currently a 1.15. we have a 1.5, we have a double, etc. Now the double is normally used for our official documents, or that is what most persons require us to have our documents in. So if I click on double, then we realize that there is a large amount of space between the document. Now if I click on the next option here, and then I'm gonna use this time the option that says add a space before paragraph. What this does is to put a space between the information that is above the selected text that I have. If I had selected the one that says apply, add space after, then there would be a space between the bottom of this text and the beginning of the next line. Next thing we have is our columns. Now this would work best if we had a large number of information such as a paragraph. So I think we can apply this further on in our document. So let me just go ahead and try to see if it will work with this small amount of text. Now the paragraph, we can split it in either 2 or 3. So let me try the 2. Oh, it did work. So what it does is to split the information that was selected into 2 paragraphs so that it shows on both sides of the document. So we have is our bulletin and number list. And as you can see, we have also these on our outside ribbon area. So if I highlight or place my cursor on one of these, and let's say I want to apply the bulletin list there, I would go ahead and select, and we could also indicate which type of bullet that we want to add. So I'm going to select the first option, and as you can see, it places a bullet point on that document. If I select in the second list and then I select the number bulletin option, then this would apply a number to each of these items there. And headers and footers, we did those already. So in the case, we could make adjustment to say where it is that we want to add a header in. Is it that we want to apply to the entire document, or we just want to select a certain page? So let's say we're adding the header to the header and footer to the entire document, and we're not making any changes to those, so we could go ahead and apply. So when we scroll through all of the pages, we would be able to see this as the header on all of our documents. All right, so the next thing in our format area is to clear formatting. Turn the information back to its original format in terms of font and the size that was previously on the document. So if I click on clear formatting, then this would automatically return this information to the original size as well as the font style that was applied. And that wraps up the information for the format section. Now in our next tutorial, we will be looking at the tools aspect of the Google Doc.